Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We have had a crazy busy week. I'm Nathan. I'm glad you're here. We've been talking about the loss of Matthew Perry and how it's been like a month. And we talked about this a little bit ago. I want to talk about how abandoned funeral homes are just abandoned. I mean, it's crazy because who wants to live in an abandoned or former funeral home? I mean, I lived in an active funeral home. Anyway, we'll get to that. Apparently, there are funeral homes across the country that people are just abandoning. I mean, you don't have family or anyone to purchase, so you kind of close down shop, so to speak. And it's amazing what people leave in the building. There is a number of funeral homes. There are a number of funeral homes across the country that are left abandoned. They leave hearses. They leave equipment. Their prep rooms, for instance, are just left like it's like a ghost town, so to speak. It's very interesting. Veteran Funeral Home is one of the funeral homes that is just poof, gone. And it is located in South Carolina. And then from there, let's see. Oh, I'm reading about some of this just to keep myself up to date. It's like, I mean, even all the office equipment's still intact. All the furniture is still present. I mean, they even have suitcases, like a briefcase, still on the desk. There's tons of photos of this funeral home. I mean, the chapels are still set up. There's still a casket in the chapel, not with a loved one, but we'll get to that. There are certainly funeral homes that have left. I mean, you know about the one that had 190 loved ones in Colorado, but it's amazing. This casket's still displayed, so to speak. I mean, all of the cots that, of course, retrieve the loved ones, transfer them into the care. The casket selection room. This is wild. I mean, it's wild to see. This is located in South Carolina, and they still have the price cards. They look like they have had a lot of water damage. $975 for this casket. Yeah, this has seen better days. I mean, look at that. Isn't that crazy? That's wild. Again, this is Veteran Funeral Home in South Carolina. I can't imagine why someone would just up and leave. I mean, wouldn't you want to at least try to sell this? I mean, this hearse is in the garage, but the garage has a hole in the roof, and there's leaves and dirt and, wow. This is called Green Mortuary. And Green Mortuary is located, oh my gosh, look at this. Isn't that insane? Like, I mean, it has all these old cosmetics. There's these old embalming machines, and the ventilation back in the day was not even ventilation. It was a fan out of the window, like blowing outside, and it would just pull whatever chemicals. Speaking of, embalming chemicals have different pH, I think, levels. I think that's what it is. So basically, the odor, the smells will rise or a certain degree or not. So that's why your modern, your state-of-the-art will have like a top, a mid, and a lower ventilation system. This is just a bona fide fan. Oh my gosh. Look at this. You see that is a cosmetic kit. That's an old school cosmetics kit. And it looks like there's an urn on the windowsill. Pretty cool, I guess. I mean, well, I stand corrected. These are unclaimed loved ones. These are cremated remains. Now, I can't say for certain if these boxes have inside them the temporary urns, but that is most certainly a bag of cremated remains. Now, also, this mortuary leaving, Kentucky law requires you house and hold a loved one's remains for so many days, meaning if you cremated them, family you can't get in touch with, and you keep track of your attempts, then after a certain period of time, you may reverently bury them. Not to say that Green Mortuary didn't try with these loved ones, but nonetheless, there's still the shock factor because you see loved one's cremated remains just chilling on the shelf there. This is Ivy Funeral Home. Ivy Funeral Home was started, wow, a long time ago. A very long time ago. It was founded in the 1920s. It was an African-American funeral home, and it was family-owned until it just shut down, which, that looks creepy. I wonder what people think about, like when they're like, we're just going to dip out, It doesn't, no, I don't think it makes me want to, this looks like a lot of work. There's a reason that funeral homes just shut down, so I would assume that it wouldn't be a home that you'd want to purchase and renovate. Oh my gosh. Like, look at that. You still have pictures on the walls of those who paved the way. You just wish you could be in their heads, right? To know what in the hell happened. I mean, the chapels are still intact. This is family funeral chapel, and they left a Rolls Royce. They really did. Let's find this. This was, oh, well, that would probably be why. The owner died suddenly in 2015. Without a funeral director full time, state laws required the funeral home essentially shut down. So that's, oh, and then it did reopen. It was given the okay to reopen in 2016, but for unknown reasons, it still has not opened back up. Everything's still boarded up, and like it was left the day that the owner died. Ooh, that's a creepy photo, but still beautiful nonetheless. I'm getting to the Rolls Royce. I mean, like, why would they have not gotten the Rolls Royce? I'm over here talking about just the car. I mean way more than that. I'm just, like, this is the care center. Like, those cabinets obviously are not med grade, but you have essentially grandfather in the state of Kentucky, you get grandfathered in. So prep room facilities, embalming facilities have to be, if you do any type of updating to it before, or excuse me, if now the building code for a new care center would require all med grade. So before that ruling, you could have wood cabinets, for instance. So anything that was done to this, if it were in Kentucky, you would have to then upgrade the entire facility, if that makes sense. This is what's called a Dualtronic embalming machine. I learned how to embalm on that machine. So on the left side, you have your rate of flow on the left. And then on the right, you have, it looks like it's flipped actually. Yeah, you're open or closed. So open, it's like opening a valve to get the embalming chemical going. They have all these instruments. I mean, it's clean. It's just abandoned. Wow. If you're just joining, I'm Nathan. I'm a musician. Spent 13 years in the profession. The profession is what inspired the songs that are streaming, and that inspire. Oh, this is creepy. That inspired the podcast that comes out every week. This is sad because I've talked about it before. You don't have a succession plan. Like if this is all you've known and you don't have a funeral director under you or an apprentice studying, if you get sick, as the owner got older, his health problems began to plague him, and it was only a matter of time before he would not be able to continue to perform funeral services. And as of 2022, once successful, the funeral home still remains vacant and in disrepair. It closed in 2017. So these photos were taken in 2022, and it closed in 2017. Look at this. Isn't that sad? I mean, just think of the number of loved ones that were cared for and transferred from this funeral home to a cemetery. I mean, wow. This is wild. I mean, it really is. I always end up going straight to the care center. It's pretty cool. Obviously, what I'm reading on these this is in no reason they shut down other than illness from the last two. So it's sad to see. This is Maze, M-A-Z-E Funeral Home. It's open for 70 years. It's closed, of course, permanently in 2018. Interesting. I'm reading about, I mean, wow. So there's some casket storage, but off right here, those are caskets and vaults for babies off to the side. Again, there's not a loved one in there. I would assume not. And then here is the embalming room with the loved one's embalming table on the wall. So how do you get to the other side to assist, you know, if you need to work on the other side? Pretty wild. I mean, this is crazy to think about. And it's also crazy just to see the different facilities that were turned into funeral homes. I mean, you can literally, I guess, turn anything into, any place into a funeral home. Eternity Funeral Home. Wow. Yeah, did you know that in 1945, the first state-issued in Kentucky ambulance during World War II was at the funeral home I started working at. So that's pretty cool. But they used to transfer loved ones in a ambulance, not a hearse. And the ambulance service, the funeral home ran the ambulance service. So you'd have funeral directors picking up people who were sick, delivered babies, and rushing them to the hospital. Didn't know if you knew that or not. Well, anyway, in Kentucky, just so you know, I need to always preface that because you all aren't in the same place as I am, and you'd be like, that's not true. All the furniture looks exactly the same in every one of these funeral homes. I mean, it's wild. Wow. They have certificate of death. This is in Detroit, Michigan. It has the date of birth of this loved one, which I won't show that. I don't know why they have this picture, but was in 1910. And this is an African-American funeral home, and they would set their chapels up. There's not a loved one in there. They would set their chapels up and have a casket open just so I guess families who were coming to make an arrangement could see how that chapel was going to essentially look. Makes sense. Century Funeral Home. Where's this one located? Huh. I'm looking. This is another African-American funeral home. So just to preface, funeral homes across the country will serve all faith traditions, all cultures, all ethnicities. But then there are also Hispanic, like they call them funeral Latina, or they have funeral homes for Jewish community members, or they'll have, you get the idea. They're specific to their culture or ethnic group. And so this is in South Carolina as well. Wow. It's amazing. So there's a burglary in March of 2023 here. And they have caskets here that are still priced at $64,000, which is insane. And I have one of those old adding machines right there. That's insane. That's old. I mean, look at this break room, everybody. Look at these. It's like, let's get on one of these 25 recliners. Let's go to one of these water wells and let's watch one of these TVs. That's absurd. That's amazing. I mean, I could watch this, or I could look at this stuff all day. I mean, it's really neat. And they have cremated remains that they're since 2012 just chilling there. And this funeral home is called Ashes Funeral Home. Ashes. Interesting. Oh no. 2019, the Department of Revenue, they arrested the owner of this funeral home for tax evasion and operating without a license. So that's why they shut down. Wow. And they performed 40 funeral homes after being shut, or 40 funerals after being shut down. Oops. So now it just chills with all the furniture, and I wonder what became of everything else. And there's still photos from a family that they had served there that they didn't get back. It's crazy. Like, it is wild. What? Sets of cremated remains that were left. Neighborhood funeral home. I'm just going down this list. I mean, this is so intriguing to me. It's so wild. Oh my gosh. Look at these caskets. They're just hanging out. Like, I wonder what is going to happen to these buildings after so long. Like, really, what are these people going to ever get the real estate sold? I mean, obviously this is in such disrepair, they would probably knock it down, but I wonder what will happen. Nobody wants to live in a funeral home. Oh my gosh. Look at this old embalming room. That looks straight out of, I don't know. That's wild. That is wild. Bob's Chapel, guys. Let's call Bob. Let's call Bob. Wow. This is epic. This is just a disaster. It's not even worth showing. They have all these old hearses that they just left hanging out. You know, those would make somebody a really good hearse for like a vehicle to drive, like a haunted house. People who owned a haunted house for the holidays would probably buy that. This was a funeral home called Smith Alberton Funeral Home. Look at this. Look at that. You want to go there? No, thanks. I don't mean to call anybody out, but this is in Georgia. I mean, it's closed down. It's been closed down forever. Oh, for 19 counts of insurance fraud, I guess, is going to really... Dang. All the involved in... This is sad. Poor... If they didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck. I'm not going to read all of their problems here is why they shut down, but my goodness. This is insane. Wow, this is a beautiful home. I would live here. Look at this. Let me find the photo. Look at that. That's wild. This is crazy. I mean, this is like where you get into the rabbit hole. But look at this. This is a challenge. I want to talk about this. You see, obviously, the original building, and then you see what looks like trick or treat, and they just add on to the side, right? So doing a bunch of remodeling in funeral homes is always a challenge. One, because could you imagine doing a remodel and you're still open for business, right? No one wants to have their visitation going when people are hammering and you know, construction workers are yelling and doing all of that, right? So what they would do oftentimes in this instance is you have the integrity of the original structure, which is very beautiful, but then they're like, okay, we don't want to disturb anybody, so we're just going to start building out here, and then we'll just, you know, when we're done with this little add-on, we'll knock a hole in the wall, right, to connect them, so to speak. And they never, that looks so terrible. It looks so bad. There's so many ways around that, but that's pretty. Look at that, guys. Wow. Facilitating a renovation during business hours or of a funeral home is very stressful. And you would think, why would it be stressful? Well, because, again, you want everybody to have a comfortable experience. You don't want people to feel, you know, what is that? Never heard of this. You don't want people to feel like they're not being tended to. Why are you not thinking of me? And you have people jackhammering the floor up kind of thing. So it is stressful. What? That's cool. But I guess it didn't work. In 1990, this individual purchased a 16-acre lot. He wanted an earth-covered mound, like an earth-covered mausoleum. That's interesting. It was called Memorial Mound. And this is underground. That's pretty interesting. It never was done, I don't guess. There's a loved one that was in a casket in a body bag that was left here. So the mound didn't work out, and this loved one was buried, sort of. That's interesting. Wow. The oldest funeral bill that I've ever seen was from 1911, and then a livery service from 1902. It was pretty wild. I mean, look at this location here, this hearse. Anyway, I just wanted to take this deep dive and show you, like, if the walls could talk, right? I mean, I think that the funeral homes, these probably cared for tons of people, and this profession is one where you don't necessarily, if you own the business, have to be business minded to have a successful one. But in these instances, obviously, it bit them in the butt. But I don't know if you would live in a funeral home, like what was once a funeral home that looks like this now. I mean, I wonder, for those who are sensitive to, like, spooky, right? That's all I'll say. Obviously, you maybe wouldn't want to, but it would make for a great story. It's amazing what you can find in a funeral home, or a formal funeral home. If you want an old casket, you could buy that. Old hearse to drive around as your car. Take a deep dive. I just wanted to show you all of what people will just magically just like up and leave. No reason why. Hope you have a good weekend. Isn't it crazy? Thanks for being here.